Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. This is Racquel Palmisi. Very glad to be here with you as always. And the most interesting topics come up as I open to this live presence. It's always such an adventure, and when the conscious information starts streaming in, it's kind of thrilling. And I feel the sharing of it with so many beings that are seen, that are unseen, that come later and watch or listen. It's really exciting, and it feels like a brand new frontier. I know this has been around for a while and it's well used, but still I feel the aspects of a new frontier here. It hasn't been really that long compared to lifetimes. So here we are on the frontier together. And one of the things that I am meant to really talk about is something that actually came up in my Tuesday night Spirit Lab, we call it. It's a workshop called the Experimental Spiritual Laboratory that takes place on Tuesday nights for some very serious seekers. And what comes up in the energy field of that 4-hour-long weekly workshop of very, very deep spiritual and healing and emotional release work is always rather on the cutting edge of spiritual evolvement as it's happening to us humans. And I am thrilled with those of us who get together and gather on Tuesday nights and open to our own personal work and supporting each other as well. And my God, it's incredible. And so what came up last night had to do with our stories. We all have these stories. We all have multiple stories that we hold about ourselves, about our world, about our communities, about our work, about lots and lots of things. Within those stories often are judgments of others or judgments of creation itself, or ideas about who we are. I'm the type of person who, I'm a Sagittarius, and therefore I will always, I never like this, that, or the other thing. They are ways of identifying ourselves that in essence have limited our evolvement, and they are actually ready to go. I mean, we're ready to let them go, and it's not an easy thing to do, because our stories that we hold usually are limiting in our lives. They usually tell us that we're too whatever to do whatever in life. It's not who I am. I'm not able to do that. I'm too old. I'm too whatever. And if you just take a couple of breaths with me right now and open to the stories that you hold about your life. I'm an angry person. I can't help it. I'm shy. Don't ask me to be comfortable in a group of people. When we began to really uncover some of our stories last night at the workshop, the most interesting and horrifying and stultifying sort of information started to emerge about the way we think about ourselves and about life. Some of these stories are so woven in to the fabric of our lives and how we live our lives, that we don't even know they're there often. We just know I'm uncomfortable in groups or whatever. A lot of our stories are attached to our egos. And when the story is manufactured by our egos, it's a good story. And usually it has just enough truth to it that we end up believing in it. You can think about the stories that you're holding about your life and the limiting patterns that these stories have created. Usually we create these starting at a very early age to protect myself. Someone said last night that they just realized that they have a really low opinion about men. This was a woman. That to her, men are just like specks. They don't, and this is not something that she intellectually believes. She knows better. But the story is there in the background of her life, and it's wreaking havoc in her relationship, where she feels she always has to overcome this idea that she has about men. It's a story. And she will somehow manage, not on purpose, to have this dynamic with her husband work. He will react to her lack of presence and lack of connection. He will feel judged and insignificant in her eyes, even though she never says anything like that. And she just hates herself for feeling this way, and she can't figure out how to unwind out of the story, out of the haranguing of this information that doesn't always come in words. It comes in feelings. It comes in, I don't want to be near you. There's lots and lots of stories. We all have them. No one is above it. Often they are stories of our own unworthiness. The word I can't precedes stories of unworthiness. I'm not able to. Nobody really sees me. Nobody really gets me. They never have. That's a story. I've had that story. Feeling as many of you might feel if you're tuned in here, that you have felt different in your life than most other folks. You might have felt that no one really got you. And so you may have built a story around that you are too sensitive, that you are too odd, too weird, that you're never going to be able to participate with them out there, that I have to stay in a silo where I'm safe because people just don't get me. You gotta really, really want to let go of these stories and identifications in order for them to be gone. And the way to do it is not, we try. We can't think our way out of these things. The woman with the low opinion of men has tried for years to talk herself out of feeling that way. She knows that she doesn't really think that. And yet, there it is. So we've gone back, we've looked at old relationships, how men have affected her in her life. And still, the feeling, the story persists and persists, and it makes her decisions for her. She's essentially not there a lot of the time. So how do we let such a story that is so overruling us in our lives, that is so manipulating the way we're gonna speak, like what we're gonna say, how we're gonna feel? We can't go to war with the story and say, I don't believe in you anymore, go away. But we can begin the process of looking at our stories, looking at the negative ways that we do and have identified ourselves over time, over our lives. I am angry. I am all of the things that we've already mentioned. And the stories that support it. Of course I'm angry. Look at the world. Look at how I was treated as a child. I was traumatized. I'll never get over this. Everything I do comes through the filter of all of that pain and trauma that I suffered. And we believe in it. And we keep trying to work on it, on the things. We keep trying to release the trauma, and somehow it creeps back in. So what? What do we do with this? So the first step is discovering our stories. Write them down. I have. And write down how much truth we feel there is in these stories, because there is truth in them somewhere. At some level, there is something to believe in about the stories of our lives. Write them down. Get close to the story. It's not your enemy. It has really just been trying to protect you for a long time. We have victim stories where we feel picked on in life, either by the universe or by people or by circumstances. We try to tell ourselves, I'm not a victim. And yeah, we can work our way out of it a little, but in general, we feel somehow that we have been wronged and that we are right and nobody sees it. And that's why we're victims. Look at these things in your life. And the reason we need to do this is because our dependence on these stories is keeping us from evolving. It actually is keeping us frozen in place, looking backwards when we're trying to move forwards. If we can't let go of our limiting stories and belief systems, we ain't going nowhere. We're just going to stay in the story. And maybe we can behaviorally improve our lives, maybe a good deal, but it's still going to be there. We're still going to be haunted by a feeling that something's wrong. Someone last night said, I feel like there's something wrong with my health. I always feel that I'm not healthy, even though she is very healthy, very beautiful, very young. But it's a story and an identification, and it comes out of fear. Most of these stories, you will find, if you get to the bottom of it, they come out of fear. And dealing with the fear means we have to apply and work on the tools of healing the fear or whatever other damaged emotions are actually supporting these stories. So the first part is getting to know our stories. You'll find a list and you'll find a couple, maybe one or two main ones that run your life. Ooh, if you're willing to. Once you find them and you write down the messages that these stories put out to you, the rationale, the justifications that these stories are true, you can decide if you want to start not believing them. This is more than a mental or intellectual exercise. You can't unbelieve something you believed in for a very long time, just like that. But you can make a decision not to choose to keep aligning with this story. The story of I'm not healthy. That's a big one because there's so much fear in there that whenever we might get a strange ache or pain or a rash or something, it will trigger and ignite this pattern saying, see, I told you, maybe it's cancer. Go to the doctor. Doctor says there's nothing wrong with you here. Put this on your rash. Hopefully, they might even say, go work on your anger, because anger and rashes are kind of closely, springing off each other. But if we sit with this and decide, I don't want to believe in this story anymore. I don't want to believe that there's something wrong with me. It's a lie. And then we have to do the work of breathing, of moving the energy of it, of feeling the power it has over us. We have to sit in it and let the feelings of it come up over and over again, especially when we're triggered in it. In the case of the woman who believes such terrible things about men, she knows better. She knows she doesn't really think that way. But to let go of the story, she has to go against the story. She has to not only recognize that her mind is creating something that's trying to protect her, that unfortunately is also keeping her from having an ability to have a free heart and to express love and receive it. In that case, we have to go against what the pattern is telling us. In her case, she has to open her heart to her husband. Even if there are difficulties in their relationship, she has to decide to make herself whole and to choose love over fear. To choose love over fear. It's the same with the person who felt there's something physically wrong with them. To choose a path of love and heart towards our own body, towards our health, towards our vitality and our life force, if we want to unleash that life force and have it active and glowing, we need to come out of the package of fear that tells us there's something wrong with us. We have to turn that love inward. We have to open our hearts to our own existence. We have to thank our bodies. Thank you, body. Thank you. You are serving me well. And this goes even if there is a malfunction in the body, even if we're suffering from something that's wrong with us. I wouldn't like to use the word wrong, but something that is out of sync with us. If we start focusing an open heart on our lives, on our bodies, the stories of limitation, I never, you always, it's not fair, life is really hard, all those stories start losing their power. Even if there's elements of truth to them, which there is, doesn't matter. I don't want to be run around by stories. I want to make my own decisions. I want to have a heart that's free to receive and give love all the time. I don't want to be owned by a story, whether it was handed to me by my parents, by my society, or by my own self, weaving that story because I'm scared. So look inward, dear ones. Look inward. Discover the stories that are running you that lead to your own discontent in life. Write them down. Write how they justify themselves. And make a choice. Make a decision whether you want to keep letting them run your life. Wisdom for Wednesday. Lots of love to you all.